and to our top focus. Man ki Shakti, Tan ki Shakti, and you know the rest. There's another one, remember, something that claims to be the secret of my energy. Well, these are, of course, well-done advertisements that have achieved their purpose of leaving their imprint with the viewers. But how truthfully? Well, let's look at what the centre's latest order says. In a big move by the centre, e-commerce platforms have been asked to delist Bournvita and other drinks from the health drinks category on all their portals. Remember, as per the regulatory body, health drink has not been defined in the country's food laws. And to project something under the same violates the rules, according to Child Rights Protection Board. The FSSAI earlier this month also instructed e-commerce portals against labeling dairy-based or malt-based beverages as health drinks. Today's order, though, goes beyond just Bournvita. Some of the popular powder supplements drinks that have been mentioned as health drinks on e-commerce platforms, and we went through some of them, includes Horlicks, Pediasure, Protein-X, Boost, Complan, Horlicks, among others. The advisory comes on the back of an investigation by the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights that found that Bournvita contains sugar levels much above the acceptable levels. Remember, this had become a huge row. And we'll get to the context of that as well. Earlier, the National Commission of Protection of Child Rights had called upon the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India to initiate action against the companies that failed to meet safety standards and guidelines and were projecting powder supplements as health drinks. Incidentally, Cadbury India had reduced the added sugar content in its popular Bournvita health drink by around 15% in December last year. This came amid growing concerns and backlash about the drink's high sugar content despite being marketed as a health supplement for children. Bournvita found itself in a controversy when influencer Revanth Himatsingka asked Akka Food Farmer, as he is popularly known as, accused Cadbury of making false claims about the health benefits of Bournvita. Himatsingka alleged that despite being labelled as a health drink, over half of the Bournvita's packet consists of sugar. But, as I said, this isn't about Bournvita alone. It's about several other powders, supplements, drinks that are in the same category and are categorized as health drink in e-commerce platforms. I'm being joined by, at this point, Revanth Himatsingka, who's a health and nutrition influencer, Dr. Satish Rath, who's a doctor, scientist, founder, Santaan and Skids, as well as Abhishek Sudhir, who's a lawyer. Thank you very much, all three of you, for joining us. Well, first, of course, to you, Revanth Himatsingka. You, of course, had drawn in at a very deep, wide extent, if I may say, the country's attention and the government's attention on Bournvita. But what you see today, how do you look at the order or the directive that has come from the centre? Because, quite frankly, this is not about Bournvita alone. That's one thing that many have picked up on because it's been in the controversy of late. And of course, the order also speaks about that particular company. But today's order is far beyond that. How do you look at that?
No, it's a massive victory. My fight is not just with Bournvita, it's with the entire category. Or if I may say, it's with every junk food which markets itself as healthy. So it's not just any one particular product. And it's a very encouraging move by the government, which will hopefully have a chain reaction on all other products. So I'm sure that this is the first step. I'm sure you look at other categories as well. In the time to come, we'll see the same thing happening with biscuits, ketchups, and many other categories as well.
Right. I mean, you know, advertisement is at one level, promotions is at one level, but truthful disclaimers are altogether a different ballgame. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like India is doing well at that end. However, what's happening right now is possibly in a step. There have been series of things that have happened over the last few months in this particular sector that does call for a lot of attention. But Revanth, one more question to you. it's not only about the companies that are producing these supplements or drinks, as it were, but it's also about the e-commerce. How do you look at that? How do e-commerce get to categorize something as health drinks if it's not defined?
Yeah, I feel like the entire ecosystem needs to look at it, right from the e-commerce players to the grocery stores. So even like, bulk of the customers also go to grocery stores and buy these products. So it's not just any one particular platform, it's the entire ecosystem that it should not be just the companies who should be punished. It's the entire ecosystem is like, how can the big e-commerce players like Amazons and the Flipkarts of the world or the other grocery stores also categorize them as a health drink? So I feel like it's the entire the entire ecosystem which needs to be addressed.
Right, Abhishek, Sudhir, if I can come to you. Abhishek, there are two aspects of this, and branding is a very important part. Of course, consumers are very wise to understand that advertisements are advertisements. It doesn't have to be 100% accurate. But what we are also seeing emerge is a lot of, if I can say, misplaced information before viewers. Whether it was intended or not is a very different aspect. But it's misplaced. How do you call yourself health drinks if there is what the government says, or the child rights bodies say that there is no definition of a health drink? So how do you then call yourself health drinks? How do e-commerce then define products or categorize products as health drinks? Isn't that equally misleading?
Right. Let me give you and your viewers a legal perspective, Sneha. First thing, we don't have a definition of health drinks. Okay, we don't have a explicit definition of what a health drink is. Okay, but you have two aspects, Sneha. The Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, FSSAI, right? They define, right, what healthy is. They don't do it directly. How do they do it? They do it through what are known as RDAs, recommended dietary allowances, basically, or daily allowances. They also recommend the maximum permissible limits for certain nutrients or ingredients. For example, right, there is a limit on added sugars, there is a limit on additives, there is a limit on calcium, sodium, right, phosphorus, potassium, right? Then you also have the recommended limits, right? Recommended daily allowances or dietary allowances. You need this much iron, you need this much calcium, this is the recommended amount of sugar, this is the recommended amount of energy, that is calories per day. So while they don't have an explicit definition of health, Sneha, they actually have all of these other implicit ways in which they define what is healthy and what isn't healthy. If you violate these limits, your drink or your product, your health drink in this case, is considered unhealthy, Sneha. Right? Now, Bournvita, Horlicks, Complan, you name it, all of them have a health drinks license from FSSAI. All of them have had licenses for several years. These products have been marketed for several decades. Bournvita has been marketed since 1948 in India, the year Cadbury was established. Now, yes, you shouldn't mislead the public, and the influencer who's on the panel, I think he read a campaign whereby Bournvita reduced the sugar content. That's very, 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 very good. I'm not disagreeing with that. But today's order goes beyond that, and it is interfering with the right of these companies to carry on their trade, profession, their business, right? That's a constitutionally protected right under Article 19. And I believe that this order is an Article 19 violation of these companies, because you're directing e-commerce companies to delist or delink these drinks from the category of health drinks. When these companies have a license from FSSAI, when they meet all the recommended daily allowances, the limits, the dietary allowances, they are getting their license, basically, right? They're being awarded their license every year. So how can you issue an order? This is interfering with their right to carry on their business. And I think this should be challenged constitutionally, Sneha. Now, the non-legal perspective, Sneha, if I can just take another 1 minute. I happen to teach consumer laws, right? I teach at a university part-time. And I asked the students, do you remember that when Maggi was banned? Your viewers might remember that Maggi was banned in 2015. There was a huge outcry that Maggi was banned. I asked my students, do you all eat Maggi? 80 to 90% of them said, yes, we eat Maggi. I said, how many of you know that Maggi is unhealthy? 80 to 90% of them said, I know it's unhealthy, but I eat Maggi because of the budget or because of the taste. Sneha, there is a difference between restricting someone's choice and regulating someone's choice. You want people to make informed choices.
Okay.
The right to
All
make
right.
a choice includes the
Okay.
right to make bad choices, basically. You're giving people information.
No,
Just
fair
quickly,
enough.
10 seconds, Sneha, you're giving
There's
people
no doubt
information.
about that.
The
There's
label
no
is
doubt
giving the
about it.
information.
Dr.
If
Satish
they're
Prasad,
marketing themselves
no,
as healthy,
Dr.
yeah.
Satish Prasad, I have to come to you. You have an important aspect to answer. But before I come to you, Dr. Satish, allow me to just go back to Revant. Revant, will you just very quickly respond to what Mr. Abhishek has said? And I am sure none of us are against any person who may be making a choice that some may perceive as unhealthy. That's their choice to make. But the point really isn't that. And Abhishek here making some very strong allegations that it's against Article 19, which is huge. Is this how you would also see it?
No, completely not. I don't agree with that at all. The government has not asked the government has not banned these drinks. All the government is saying, market yourself accurately. You're delisting yourself as a health drink, but you can still label yourself as a drink. You can still sell on Amazon. So it's not. I completely disagree with whatever Abhishek said. And the only thing is, and he also said that it's not exceed. FSSAI said that it's gave its license as a health drink. No, FSSAI never gave any of these companies a license as a health drink. In fact, all of these companies are exceeding on the sugar limit as well.
No, you can look that up. I've looked it up on the website.
We need to check some facts before we make these claims.
Can I see, sir? It's a legal point.
All right, okay. Revant and Abhishek, allow me a few minutes. Abhishek, I'll come back to you. Mr. Abhishek,
just because something is legal does not mean it is ethical. Legal and ethical are two different things.
No, hold on. Revant and Abhishek, both of you, please hold your thoughts there. I will get back to you. Dr. Satish Prasad, here's a very important question that I have for you. Now, Mr. Abhishek says that FSSAI gives you the licenses that are required. There are no definitions of healthy drinks, but hey, listen, there are these benchmarks that have been set in terms of RD and other nutrients. But then how much of that do you get is enough to really categorize a drink as healthy drink and to sell it to people? Now, I'm not saying everybody is a fool here and they will go for it, but branding is a complex process, and categorizing something as health drinks is also not that innocent.
Absolutely. I think, this is not so complex also, how we are trying to make it. So whenever we say something is health, something is medical, it is pretty clear in worldwide that, if it is affecting safety as well as if it is affecting health of a person, then I think the government is actually empowered to regulate it because, many times consumers might not be aware to make the right decision. That's why we make this category as health or non-health. In, let's say, global wide, if you see, for medical safety or health safety, we have, let's say, FDA in US, we have CE in Europe, we have SCO in India, as well as, let's say, FSSAI, for this. So many times, whenever, large corporates want to market it, in, let's say, in deceiving, saying that, this is my constitutional right, and FSSAI is giving indirect measures of, what is RDA and what is daily allowance. This is not direct to the consumer. We need to understand that, as somebody rightly said, that, this has been marketed from post-independence. And India has moved from a very, let's say, a calorie-deprived nation to a calorie-sufficient nation. So whenever in that state we are saying a health supplement means, when you have a deficit of health, then it needs to be supplemented. Nowadays, in majority of the population, health drinks are actually creating overdose of, let's say, sugar or unnecessary minerals. And it is also not, let's say, fulfilling whatever is deficient in the kid. So by all means, these are not health drinks, as a pediatrician, as a scientist, I can very well say, as well as this is proactive responsibility of government, of the bodies like FSSAI or ICMR or Health and Safety Department to say that part is, it has to be explicit that, this is part of this, let's say, food level of either this is a breakfast cereal or this is a lunch, supplement or this is a dinner supplement, and this is supposed to not cross 100 calories or 200 calories. More than that, I think, you are going to make it, sugary or something
in fact,
like that. So this is absolutely,
opened
very, very necessary.
a can of worms, if I may, Dr. Satish, because breakfast cereals, baby food is altogether another body game, which it's totally different debate altogether. So, we call them healthy, but the amount of sugar that goes into it, possibly,
There is a very recent precedence now for 3M, 3M, which is, globally, very, very big corporate. and is being now sued
A minute
for
more, sir,
more
and then
than
I
$2
have to go
billion
across to the others.
for having the supplement part of it. So these kind of changes can be done and should be done for the betterment of the kids. And this is a very welcome move, I would say.
All right.
Congrats to Revant as well as to the government.
Okay, Mr. Abhishek, Sudhir, if I can come to you, you were raising your hands. You wanted to say something. 40 seconds to you, please.
Yes. Look, the simple point is this, Sneha. When you issue a license and they're operating within the limits of that license, if you issue a notification to e-commerce companies, right, a circular to e-commerce companies saying de-link them from health drinks, you're essentially saying that the drinks are not healthy. Now, if you go onto the website of the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, the Ministry of Consumer Affairs has commissioned multiple studies, right, on these malt-based drinks, right, comparing Horlicks with Complan and Bournvita. All these drinks have submitted to the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Consumer Affairs. The limits in these drinks have been assessed, have been analyzed at NABL laboratories, nationally accredited laboratories, right? So these campaigns are all well and good. But at the end of the day, there is a fine line between regulation and overreach. With Patanjali, you're regulating. I'm sorry, but with Bournvita, the circular you've issued today, this is overreach. There is a big difference in the two cases. That's all I want to say in 40 seconds, basically.
All right, okay, and as I mentioned earlier, this debate isn't about Bournvita alone. It's about drinks that have been categorized under healthy. For that matter, we in fact reached out to a couple of them, including Bournvita, but we haven't got a response from them officially. Revant, 30 seconds to you. Do you want to quickly respond to what Abhishek Sudhir has said right now?
Yeah, so I want to once say, just because something is legal does not mean it is ethical. You can always find loopholes in the law and try to justify something, the same way how many pan masala brands market themselves as elaichi products. So you can always find some loopholes and say that, okay, you're right. But if you look at it from an ethical perspective, you yourself probably would not give to your kid.
Okay, yeah, all right, you made your point. Dr. Satish, I don't have more time, but I want you to be the last word on this. 30 seconds to parents, families, people who are watching you, who are absolutely confused with what's exactly happening, what's healthy, what's unhealthy, what's that one word you want to give them? I can't give you more than 30 seconds.
Health and safety is paramount. So if any law has to be amended, it has to be amended because, with new discovery of knowledge, we will find that, our old laws need to be changed. And this cannot be, let's say, argued saying that, because the law was there, so we cannot implement it. When we have the knowledge, we have to amend the law for the betterment of the citizens. Citizens' health and safety is utmost priority.
All right. Okay, thank you very much for joining us, Revant Himatsingaka, Dr. Satish Rath, as well as Abhishek Sudhir. Thank you very much for bringing in some very important perspectives. I am really hoping India would discuss this more and more. It's time for a short break. On the other side, do tune in for the latest.